Gentlemen, I have something important I'd like to discuss. What do you think is the best way to get into the Fate franchise?
That's easy. Just start with Fate Stay Night. It's the original and the best. I personally recommend reading the visual novel, but there's also the anime adaptations by Dean and Ufotable.
Jesus Christ, Joe, nobody's going to read the visual novel. It's way too wordy. You need to have a guide in order to make sure you don't end up locking yourself in a dead end. And the interesting parts don't happen until the end. No, Fate Zero is the best place to start. It's got a linear story, great story, and characters who are actually interesting and not just anime tropes and god-tier animation.
Fate Zero is the worst place to start, Jack. It literally spoils major plot points from Fate Stay Night, and it counts on you already being familiar with characters. And while, yes, the animation is god-tier, the first episode is an absolute clusterfuck of exposition that's a struggle to stay awake through, much less understand.
Well, I got into the series by playing Fate Extra back on the PSP. I know it's a spin-off, but as an introduction to the series, I'd argue that it holds up. Also, it introduced Best Girl Tamamo.
Wrong. Fate Extra is shit and Tamamo is shit. The gameplay is terrible. If I wanted to play rock, paper, scissors, I'd pull Rudy out from the cellar and play with him. Also, the dungeons are just long hallways painted with stock Windows XP screensavers. Honestly, the only good thing about Fate Extra is CCC, and that didn't even get an English release.
CC is pretty good, but I wouldn't recommend it to people as an entry point. It's pretty confusing, and it's got a lot of gratuitous fan service that might give newbies the wrong idea. BB is a top-tier waifu, though.
Wait, are we talking about waifus now?
Joe, did you fall asleep in the middle of the conversation? We're talking about why Fate Extra is the worst way to get into the franchise.
If we're talking worst ways to get into the franchise, then I would say Fate Extra. Last Encore.
God damn it, Joe, why did you have to remind me of that shit's existence? I'd almost forgotten it entirely.
Last Encore is the worst thing to happen to the franchise, and that's saying something considering that Prisma Ilia exists.
Prisma Ilia is fine if you ignore all the Yuri, and after a certain point it really comes into its own. The Oath Under Snow movie made me cry more than when my children were born.
Yeah, but does it work as an entry point? I'd argue no, and let me tell you why. Number one, it's shit. Number two, see number one.
Come on, Joe, I think you're being a little too harsh. Prisma Ilia's combination of the franchise's already established magical elements with that of the magical girl genre makes it stand out from other entries.
Whatever, Barack, you can keep your Yuri shit to yourself, although I will say, to its credit, that's it not as bad as Lord El Malloy Case Files. That show was so bad, so bad. Let me tell you why it's pretentious. That's the biggest reason. It feels like it's being written by a bad writer who doesn't fully understand what it means to be competent and trying to mask it by making everyone sound smart. Everyone tries to be smart, but they're so dumb. Reynes could be a smart character, but the writing around her is so dumb that it makes her dumb as a result.
Oof, yeah, Case Files was dookie dog water for sure. The mystery is ruined by throwing in magic elements and then not explaining it properly. And then there's the fact they shoehorned in another Saberface with Gray. I love Saber, but it just felt like they're making Saber faces just for the sake of it.
Saber faces are a key part of the franchise. Almost every entry includes at least one. To say that they're being shoehorned is a load of malarkey. And honestly, Barry, I'm disappointed in you.
I'm not taking this coming from the man who spent all of New Year's Eve arguing with himself on which banner to roll in grand order because you couldn't decide between Summer, Ibuki, and Oberon. Why don't you go grind your dailies and then try to explain how it's the quintessential Fate story? Oh, that's right, it's not.
Fuck you, Barack. Lost Belt 6 is peak Nasu writing, and I won't hear any arguments otherwise. You know I've been trying to build my Arts and Buster looping teams ever since I rolled Space Ishtar back on Anniversary.
Look, let's just get back to the main topic, okay? How do you two feel about Fate Apocrypha?
Loved it. Great show, great cast. Perfect entry point to the franchise. The story of two factions, each with their own set of servants fighting for the Holy Grail, is a recipe for perfection.
Yeah, perfect shit. Apocrypha's biggest mistake was thinking that more equaled better, when they should have just focused on Sieg and Jean instead of trying to bounce around back and forth. The only pass I'll give it is that it brought Astolfo to the world.
Yeah, Trump saying Apocrypha is perfect is a bigger war crime than that shit you tried to pull on January 6th. It's too scattered and has god-awful pacing. Also, The whole Sieg and Gina relationship is just a shitty copy-paste of Saber and Shiro. They couldn't even be bothered to come up with their own ending.
Okay, I agree that Apocrypha was ass, but can we all agree that Chiron versus Achilles was hype as shit? One of the best fights in the whole franchise, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that fight was pretty badass.
Okay, that just leaves Grand Order, which I do believe is great for newcomers. It's got pretty much every major character from across the entire franchise, and its story is sprawling epic that goes across time and space. I feel like an absolute badass commanding my servants in battle. Truly the best entry.
Gotcha, Sim. Everyone knows that Grand Order is just waifu bait. That's only appeal is in how many six-digit numbers will new characters produce. It's a time sink that's only purpose is to wring as much money out of you as possible.
Yeah, ever since Lassingel took over, it just hasn't been the same. Having to wait over a month for Part 2 of Lost Belt 7 was dumb, and they don't even rerun events anymore. It's like, what the fuck?
It's good, you guys just don't get it. Whatever, I'm not listening to this bullshit anymore. Go watch Apocrypha and Prisma Ilia. I'll be having an actual good time reading the good shit over here.
Fuck this, I'm gonna rewatch Apocrypha for the 5th time. Later, dipshits.
This is why I don't hang out with you assholes. Goodbye.